This week on The Leak, HECS help repayments will now kick in at $45,000 as the government changes the scheme's name to HECS Help Yourself, you lazy bum. I never even had a university debt, so why do you? And a Newcastle salon owner has lost her appeal to have her GPS ankle bracelet removed while on bail for running a Vietnamese drug syndicate. Apparently her lawyer claimed the monitor was hampering her sleep, her attempts to rebuild her salon business, and her ability to flee the country. And in the US, Joey Chestnut has won Nathan's annual 4th of July hot dog eating contest, eating a record 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Speaking afterwards, Joey said, "I found a vicious rhythm. I was feeling good today. And then I ate 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes and now everything's in black and white." This is The Leak. Thank you so much. Well, this week in Australia, the news was just a little bit sexy. Sorry. That's my bad. Sorry. The news was just a little bit sexist. No, sorry. No, cut the music. Sexism was everywhere this week, with a depressing number of comments with which to start this segment. So it was really almost just like every other week. But we will start with Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young, not to be confused with Hanson-Old, who is looking to sue Senator David Leyonhjelm after he told her to stop shagging men. Despite the outrage, Leyonhjelm defended the comments like this.
I think you're mischaracterising it as sexist abuse when it's just abuse.
Which I think we can all agree is a rock-solid defence. See, Your Honour, I'm not a sexist asshole, I'm an equal opportunity asshole. The defence rests. And then, Leyonhjelm, just to prove his good guy credentials, offered to apologise if Hanson-Young met a number of conditions, including stating that she no longer believes men are collectively responsible for the actions of men who commit violence, which, to be clear, is a position Hanson-Young denies she ever held. Good job, David. While you're at it, why not get Hanson-Young to renounce her previous support for ISIS? And that time she definitely said Ringo was the best Beatle. And an interesting side note to that story, last week Leyonhjelm appeared on Sky News to double down on his Senate comments with hosts Ross Cameron and Rowan Dean. And it turns out Rowan Dean was on the board of the publishers of the Medical Journal of Australia, a position he's now thankfully lost. And to be honest, I think we should have realised he was on the board after the Medical Journal's latest issue was titled, "Does Feminism Really Cause Cancer?" and other hypothetical questions I answered on behalf of the doctors. Then from the Senate to Triple M Radio, and former footballer and quite possibly evidence of the missing link Barry Hall was fired from Triple M after he attempted to make a joke and ended up being Barry Hall. And the whole episode says a lot about entrenched sexism in our society, but says even more about footballers trying to be comedians. Stick in your lane, Barry, okay? You don't see me jumping onto the field at the MCG and trying to score a goal, okay? But if you did, I can bet it would be hilarious. And if you can't imagine what that would look like, just watch any game involving the St Kilda Football Club. Then take that, St Kilda. The University of Adelaide. The University of Adelaide are distancing themselves from a promotional poster that appeared to depict mansplaining. And the thing about this poster is, the thing about this poster is that it shows a man talking to a group of young women. And we obviously don't know exactly what that man said, but I'm sure his sentence involved the phrases, "actually," and "look, I'm a feminist, but." Although some on social media took a slightly different angle, arguing we couldn't know it was a man and shouldn't assume their gender from their appearance. And you know what? Maybe that's fair. So let's not assume they're a man because of their appearance. Let's assume they're a man because of the looks on the faces of the women in that poster. Ultimately, though, it turns out the image is not associated with the University of Adelaide at all. That photograph is actually part of a billboard for Renewal SA, not the University of Adelaide. And although the university has tried to explain that, they haven't had much success. Mostly because they lack the overconfidence of the dude in that poster. But our top story tonight is Western civilization. You know Western civilization? That thing that gave us Aristotle, modern science, and the Hog's Breath Cafe. The Hog's Breath Cafe. Try their new barbecue beef salad with beetroot and barramundi croutons now. The Hog's Breath Cafe. for when colon cancer can't come soon enough. But apparently these days, kids just aren't into Western civilization like they used to be. And there's been a debate about why it is that kids today are all down with the West rather than down with the West. Could it be that a litany of sexual abuse scandals within Christianity has robbed a major Western religion of its moral authority? Or is decades of overseas military and diplomatic failures in the Middle East contributing to the problem? Or, as the community at therightsaber.com would argue, is it an all-female Ocean's 8 and the fact that Luke Skywalker didn't obviously have enough big dick energy in The Last Jedi? No, apparently the main culprit for all this anti-Western bigotry, universities, where apparently pervasive left-wing bias is breeding generations of snowflakes who hate this country, its people, and probably Jesus, I don't know. And all this came to a head over the proposed Ramsay Centre for Western Civilization, which was to be part of the Australian National University. And you might think that with around 150 humanities courses that broadly cover what you might call Western civilization at ANU already, that this new centre was redundant. But you would be totally wrong, because the right-wing, wait, what the fuck is wrong with the way they actually think tank, the Institute of Public Affairs, claims that a search of the course descriptions reveals not one of those 150 courses contains the words Thomas Aquinas. Well, yeah, that's just because they're course descriptions, right? The only words that students search for in a course description are compulsory attendance or group assignment, because if you see those two words, you need to back the fuck out of there, because you just know that Tara is going to fuck you over on her section of that group assignment. I can see you're online, Tara. But even if ANU does need to up its Thomas Aquinas quota, the reason they actually pulled out were concerns about academic independence. First, because not only did the Ramsay Centre want a say on staffing, it turns out they wanted to sit in on classes to monitor how the degree was being taught, which would not have been conspicuous at all. But secondly, in the words of Ramsay Foundation board member and Australian culture warrior Tony Abbott, the centre is not merely, loved his episode, the centre is not merely about Western civilization, but in favour of it. And that, in a nutshell, is the problem. Because first of all, universities aren't really meant to be in favour of any particular school of thought, apart from obviously being pro-tweed. But this comes as part of a broader discussion. Right? Broader discussion claiming that left-wing bias, particularly at universities and the ABC, has erased the benefits of Western civilization from the public's mind. So Tony Abbott says, women's equality, the abolition of slavery, individual freedom, religious tolerance, and freedom of expression are the West's gift to the world. Sure, but you can't really credit the West with abolishing slavery without also mentioning all the slavery that went on under Western civilization in the first place. That'd be like saying Ian Thorpe's gift to the world was the abolition of Thorpe's Angels. And sure, the cancellation of that show was, in the words of the great man, fully sick. But he's also the only reason that show existed in the first place. Also, bold move leading with women's equality there. I'd have described that more as an ongoing project rather than as a gift to the world. Or maybe, did the West gift women's equality to the rest of the world and forget to give it to women in the West in the first place? Because that seems like an oversight. Regardless, women's equality hasn't even been something men in the West cared about for almost the entirety of Western civilization. To the extent it's a gift at all, it's the sort of gift Western civilization has bought from a 7-Eleven on the way to their sister's birthday party. Like, or what, you didn't want 6 donuts, some engine oil, and 2 Mother energy drinks for $6.50? And sure, the card says it's a boy, not happy birthday, but it's all I could find. I mean, it's one thing to be in favour of Western civilization, but it's entirely another to establish a centre to teach university students that Western civilization went democracy, inventing penicillin, then Churchill, while leaving out colonialism, institutionalised racism, and the Nazis. So even if you accept that universities tend to be more left-wing than the rest of the population, and sure, those photos of me in second year in the Harpists for Marxists orchestra would tend to confirm that perception. But even if you accept, it's a social club, even if you accept that, what are these culture warriors really worried about? If universities are churning out left-wing agents determined to bring down the West, they're doing a pretty crappy job of it. They could have been trying for generations, but they haven't succeeded yet. And partly, they haven't succeeded because a lot of the time I don't think they're really trying. I think most of the time they're just asking chest beaters like Abbott to consider the flaws in Western civilization and our culture before manically preaching its virtues. And they're also failing because fucking Tara always forgets to do her part of the fucking plan. Fucking Tara! We'll be right back. Thank you so much. Well, plastic. It's an incredible, versatile material, and it touches our lives every day. Whether you're a busy mum doing the weekly shop, a busy long-distance running / wet t-shirt competitor, or whether you're busy worrying about bananas that touch too many other bananas. But as it turns out, the ubiquity of plastic isn't all good news, and not just because it makes these coconuts look like suffocating baby sloths. Look at it. Single-use plastic pollutes our oceans, costing billions to clean up, and it kills birds and sea life in shocking numbers. One estimate predicts there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish in 30 years' time. Oh, look, he's wearing a little scarf. And that's why, as of this month, major Australian supermarkets are no longer providing single-use plastic bags. And because they're getting out ahead of imminent government intervention in a cynical PR stunt, but also the environment thing. And while most shoppers seem happy with the change, with an ABC poll finding 85% positive response, some Australians are standing up to this tyranny at the checkout.
Reusing these green bags, especially unwashed ones, potentially exposes shoppers to the deadly E. coli bacteria.
Wow. And some in the media warn of a dangerous slippery slope. Yeah, this society's going to the dogs. What are we going to ban next? Straws? Hypodermic needles? Same-sex marriage? In any case, it served us well, but for now at least, let us say goodbye to the humble plastic bag. Well, mandatory sentencing, does it work? Or will it create more problems than it solves? Rose Bishop has more.
Yes, I do, Pat.
Jesus! How long have you been here?
A while.
Sorry, Rose Bishop, everyone! Sorry, Rose. I assumed we were going to throw to like a pre-recorded piece that you put together before.
There's been a lot of talk about mandatory sentencing lately after new legislation was proposed in Victoria last month that would make assaulting an emergency services worker, like a paramedic or a cop, an offence with mandatory jail time, no matter how large or small the assault. So it doesn't matter whether you were punching a paramedic because you're wasted or spitting on a cop because you've got a bad case of being Wayne Carey. Outside of some fairly restrictive mental health exemptions, you'll end up in jail. This change was largely prompted by the public outcry after a 2016 incident where two reservoir women went on a bourbon, cannabis and champagne binge, or as Rihanna would call it, lunch. Unfortunately, the binge ended with the pair assaulting a paramedic so badly that he needed 3 operations. An appeal judge, citing the women's difficult childhoods and drug, alcohol and mental health issues, overturned their original jail sentences, making a lot of people understandably very mad. Now, I think we can all agree that assaulting emergency services workers is not on and deserves to be taken seriously. But what if the optics were different? What if the people affected by mandatory sentencing laws look like your nan, or rather, my nan? Welcome to mandatory sentencing. Oh, Nan, why'd you do it? Why'd you have to go and bash a cop?
Oh, that was a big one.
Oh, Nan,
Look, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I'm just a Nan. I'm just a little old Nan.
look, Nan, we've had some good times together. You've made me some great bickies in your time.
Oh, you loved those bickies. God, you had an appetite on you. You'd eat them so fast sometimes I wasn't sure if you were a little girl or a vacuum cleaner. Whoosh!
But now's not the time for that, Nan. You're looking at 6 months in jail, minimum.
But I just sort of tapped him with me cane.
Well, it was a bit more than that.
I won't survive in there.
Look, the point is you can't get out of it, Nan. You're going to jail.
By the time I come out, I'll have
Probably be dead.
missed the meet and greet with Costa from Gardening Australia.
Oh, or that, yeah.
Those tickets cost me a whole pension cheque.
Well, you should have thought of that before, shouldn't you?
Oh well, dear. I'm sure it's for the best. At least it'll stop other Nans from bashing cops.
Actually, Nan, all the research shows that mandatory sentencing doesn't actually reduce crime rates. In fact, when the Northern Territory introduced mandatory sentencing for property crimes in 1997, property crime actually increased. When the law was then repealed in 2001, property crime rates decreased again.
Oh well, I'm sure it'll save a bit of money locking me up rather than paying to rehabilitate me from the hardened criminal I've become.
Well, Australia has one of the highest per capita spends on incarceration in the developed world. Non-custodial sentences geared towards rehabilitation are cheaper and more effective, and Australia does not have Rihanna money to spend on locking more people up.
Look, love, fair's fair. I'll take my punishment just like anyone else would.
The thing is, as a straight white nan, you're far less likely overall to be affected by mandatory sentencing. Numerous studies have shown that mandatory sentencing disproportionately affects marginalised communities. In fact, rates of incarceration of Indigenous Australians in WA and the Northern Territory rose so sharply after the introduction of mandatory sentencing laws that the United Nations Committee Against Torture recommended that the laws be abolished.
If mandatory sentencing doesn't work to reduce crime, costs a lot of money and targets marginalised groups, why are they locking me up, Rose?
I think maybe it's because the faces behind the crimes that tend to stir up public outrage and fuel cries for mandatory sentencing are less than sympathetic. Not everyone affected by mandatory sentencing laws looks like someone who would have beat me up in high school. More often than not, they're youth from bad homes, people with substance abuse issues, Indigenous people, the homeless, and yeah, even those ladies who lunch from Reservoir.
I had so much more to give the world. So many more bickies to bake.
Yeah, maybe I'll just take these.
Like a bloody Hoover.
Thank you. Rose Bishop, everyone. And now, Rose, how is Nan doing in jail?
Oh, she's running a gang. She's having a great time. She says it's much better than bowls. But I just want to make it clear that that doesn't make mandatory sentencing any less reactive and inequitable. A judge's job is supposed to be to put aside anger and fear and make sentencing decisions based on facts. And we can't just override that, no matter how good of a time Nan is having shivving bitches in jail. You've just got to ask yourself, what would Rihanna do?
What would Rihanna do?
Well, she'd uphold the legal principle of judicial discretion and then smoke a blunt on a yacht. Classic Rihanna.
Truly a beacon of light for us all. Well, we'll be right back. Welcome back to The Leak. Well, as of July 1st, 2018, business owners around the country, including myself here at The Leak, will have a little spring in their step as penalty rate cuts go into effect, removing unnecessary wages from fat employee paychecks. Joining me to talk through the economics of why this is a good idea is The Leak's senior dollar bill correspondent, Aurelia St. Clair. So, Aurelia, would you agree that a cut in penalty rates is good for job seekers because there'll be more jobs as wages go down?
Well, there are no guarantees cutting wages creates more jobs. A lot of business owners will just keep more money for themselves because they were going to open regardless. I mean, do you plan on running more episodes of The Leak now that you can pay us less?
Well, not The Leak specifically. You see, I'm actually working on a pilot. It's kind of a passion project, and I don't want to get too excited about it, but I think it's a sure thing. So I can tell you it's called Pat, We Have a Conundrum featuring Husey. There'll be heaps of jobs to go around once that comes through, so it's a win-win, really.
Is it? Sounds more like a conundrum or just guaranteed failure. Like your other idea, quiz thingy, whatever.
To be honest, you should all be grateful for the extra hours. I mean, in a way, it's like I'm carrying all of you.
I'm not so sure about that, Pat. I'll admit that for some business owners, penalty rates are too high. But in your case, I'm pretty sure we are carrying you. It's like we're LeBron James and you're whatever team he just left.
Okay, that was a low blow. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't really know anything about basketball.
Anyway, how do we know you won't take your savings and do what supermarkets do and invest in electric staff instead of real people? How do we know you won't start with robot correspondence?
Relax. You can't make robots read. Or can you?
Pat, my advice to you is just be a good boss to work for. That's all there is to it.
Well, I don't think there'll be any complaints there.
Such an asshole.
I know. I'd still sleep with him though.
He's gay.
We'll see.
Well, that is it from us tonight at The Leak. My thanks to Rose Bishop, Eve Ellen Bogan, Aurelia St. Clair, and Matt Young, and all the crew. I'm Pat McCaffrey. Good night.
It smells weird.
Yeah, but he's got those broad shoulders. It's like his only good feature.
No, but it's like, you know when you leave food in the fridge for too long and it looks like it's fine, but then you open it up and
And
it's
like rotting inside.
oh boy, yeah.
So you think that's like who he is, or that you think that's like what he looks like?
I just say don't go there.
I don't know. I mean, I think
He's mean. He's mean.
yeah, but I like that.
He kicked me.
He kicked
I was
you.
just walking down the hall and he kicked me.
I know, he did grab my ass. But I mean,
Classic.
yeah, that's like a McCaffrey thing, you know? He's like, I'm gay. No, you're not.
No, I mean, just to go back to that, he is.
I mean, he could be. He's still like a threat, you know?